Now back to the governor. He's been racking up a lot of frequent flyer miles lately. Snyder says he's going on the road to improve Michigan's image by sharing the state's comeback story. But could it really be an attempt to raise his national profile for a 2016 Republican presidential bid? The governor will only say he's focused on leading Michigan and fixing the roads. But he did say if you had to choose a president from a governor or a senator, a governor would probably be a better pick. You know, I find the Snyder for president conversation just... I mean, it makes me smile. It makes me laugh. I don't think there's really much to it. I think there's something to him raising his national profile because when he's done with this job here in a couple of years, I mean, if you've got a Republican in power in Washington, there'd be no reason not to plug him in somewhere.
He's out in Nevada now, or headed out there, talking to casino executives, Steve Wynn and others, big Republican funders. He's going to the White House Correspondents' Dinner Saturday as a guest of Bloomberg. You know, we could sit here and say, well, it doesn't make much sense to this, but I'm telling you, he and some of the folks around him think it's a possibility. I mean, he has formed this pack. I think if you think it's all about just raising his national profile, I think he thinks there's a possibility he could end up on the ticket.
Does he have a book? Because that's usually the key, right? Aren't you supposed to have a book before you do the rollout?
He could write one, I suppose. I mean, I think if you look at the field of Republican candidates, and if you plugged him into that field, there's no reason he couldn't be competitive. I mean, it's not a great field. You've got a lot of extremists in the race already who probably, even if they could get the nomination, can't win a general election. This is a guy who has won two statewide elections in a very blue state.
This is a guy who doesn't like to campaign, though, right?
I mean, he wasn't great at it last year, but he still won. I mean,
yeah,
I sort of feel like, you know, one of the mistakes I think people have made with Rick Snyder, and I made this mistake very early on, is underestimating him.
And his ambition.
And his ambition. I mean, not understanding how sort of tenacious he can be when he decides he wants to do something and get it done. I wouldn't count him out. I think he would be a strong contender, you know, on policy for sure in that Republican field. The question would be about money. How much could he raise?
But if you look, I mean, he has won 2 elections, but he won the last one, his re-election just last fall, by only 4 points against an extremely weak candidate.
Sure.
So there's
because he didn't try though that hard.
Still, you can't make the case that he can deliver Michigan. Because, I mean, you look at Kasich in Ohio, who's also in the race, won his key state by 31 points.
Yeah.
Snyder won by 4 points against a weak candidate. There's no reason to believe he could beat Hillary Clinton, even in his own state.
I don't know.
You know, I think that works against him.
And campaigning on a national level is grueling. The everyday, under the microscope, the constant appearances, the constant interaction is so, it would be so intense.
And yet there's about, what, 25 people vying to do it this time?
They say they're going to do it now.
He's not one of them.
Yeah, but by January, most of those people will be out.
And that, you know, and again, that might leave room for a different sort of candidate. Who knows?
Historically, is he the best Michigan governor in the position to make a national run? Taking a look back at some of our previous governors?
No,
you'd
I
have
think
to go
George
back to
Romney was the best, but, you know, he stumbled early on. But, I mean, he probably had the best shot, and had he been able to sustain his focus on the campaign trail, might have been president.
Might have been better.
All right. And finally tonight,
ooh, headline. The headlines graphic is back.
So exciting. The headlines graphic is back. I know, it's so exciting. A quick look at some of the other stories on our minds this week, and maybe a few more we should be watching for. We dusted off the graphic just for you, Stephen. One thing on my mind this week is my daughter is taking the M-Step.
My kids are taking it too.
They're taking the M-Step this week, so it's the new standardized testing that replaced the MEEP test. There have been some problems with it, some complaints with it as the schools have been rolling it out. Our school district is not doing it on the computer. They are doing it pencil and paper. The MEA wrote a letter to the governor this week, an open letter saying, we don't think our teachers should be evaluated on the test scores this year because this test hasn't been approved.
Or on anything else.
Well, I don't think they said that. But, I mean, is it really fair to judge the teachers on a test that was cobbled together over the last 6 months because the legislature changed their mind on having another test?
Than the other test. You know, I am not enamored of this obsession with testing anyway. I'm not sure that's the best way to measure.
You want the kids to just go
learning.
outside and play.
No, but I think I would like the curriculum and what goes on in a classroom to be about more than a once-a-year test. I think creativity, flexibility, project learning, there needs to be room for all of those approaches. And when we become so single-mindedly focused on testing as a measure of what's going on in the classroom, I think we do a disservice, not just to teachers, but to the children.
Well, I know my daughter comes home, she's like, we had the M steps today. A lot of eye rolling. All right, Stephen, what'd you see this week?
$325,000 from the federal government to help fix up athletic facilities at Belle Isle. So it's not just the state who's taking more responsibility. For our best park, our jewel, as we like to call it,
Might be that
the
soon
Detroit
if this
River,
keeps
right?
up.
I mean, you go out there. I spent a lot of time out on the island, and I have to say that there's some things they've done I'm not enamored with, but there's a lot of things that have been done that are really making it better. And if you fixed up the athletic fields, more people would use them. More people on the island is a good thing.
Hey, what don't you like?
They took some sidewalks out
Yeah.
as part of the Grand Prix prep and stuff. I'm not sure that was such a great idea. But
The single best improvement they could make on that island would be allow a whole fleet of hunters to walk through on a Saturday and kill those geese.
the geese are in the way, no question.
Well, it's their droppings,
So
if
nasty,
you will.
yeah.
You can't take a step out there without getting geese crap on your shoes.
You
and
know,
I think they need to.
Not sure you
either
can say that on TV.
I think they need to clear it out. I
So
mean,
you know
foul.
who the natural enemy of
It
those
is foul.
geese is the ducks, and
Really?
there are spectacular fights. It's almost like West Side Story.
Jets, sharks,
Jets,
go.
sharks, the geese, ducks. It is
All right.
pretty. It's something
Nolan,
to watch.
I'm sorry, we only have a couple seconds left for your. What was your
I
on
love
your
the
mind?
fact that Gilbert's not rolling over for the Justice Department and paying a huge settlement for what really amounts to some very trifling mistakes that were made in their lending. All over the country, big banks, mortgage companies have been shaken down by this gangster government we have, and Gilbert's standing up. I hope he continues to do so.
Yeah, we'll watch that play out. Hey, thanks, guys. I love those stories. And that's going to do it for MiWeek. Thanks so much for joining us. We're going to continue our conversation now online right after the show. So go to MiWeek.org for an extra segment that you won't see on TV. We're also on Facebook. We're on Twitter during the week, so make sure you connect with us there. I'm Christy McDonald, and for all of us at Detroit Public TV, have a great evening, and we will see you next week. Take care.